Okay, match 5 with Kuldotha Jeskai. We have a 2-lander. We don't have any of our good artifacts to return to Glinthawk, but we can use Ancient Den if necessary. 2 removal spells and a Kuldotha Rebirth. We just need to draw an Ichor Wellspring, and this hand is perfect. Basic Island. We're playing against Mono Blue Delver again. 3 matches in a row. We have been very fortunate these past, I don't know, 7 leagues besides this one, so this is the 8th, to have a very wide variety of decks that we go up against. We've never had a deck repeated more than twice in a single league, as far as I remember. And a lot of times we've had exactly 5 different decks in the 5 games. But it appears as though this time we're going to get 3 in a row of the same thing. I'm actually pretty fine with that since our deck is so well matched up against theirs, though. They scribe bottom top with the first preordain, and bottom bottom with the next one. So it looks like they are not setting up this Delver to flip, though they still could do so anyway. Lightning Bolt. Alright, well, we only have one more artifact in hand, so we're not close to enabling Metalcraft anytime soon. So I could Psionic Blast, or I could Galvanic Blast. Then again, each of these take out all of their creatures except for Spire Golem. It's not like they have a 3 toughness creature we need to worry about and save this Lightning Bolt for. So I think I'm going to kill it with... I guess I could just do Journey to Nowhere is another option. Decisions. How do I want to kill this? I don't want to return one of my lands by playing a creature this turn. I definitely don't want to sacrifice one of my lands. I think I'm just going to go with my Sorcery Speed 2 mana option first and save my Instant Speed 1 mana options. Instant Speed options are really good for going against Spellstutter Sprite specifically, because they flash in the Spellstutter Sprite, then you kill one of their fairies and you make them have fewer fairies than the CMC of the spell that they're trying to counter. So I think this is what I'm going to do. Still have Galvanic in hand if they just go land, Spire Golem. I can eventually find another land for Metalcraft or something. Okay, Miscreant. Have not seen an opponent double up on a Miscreant yet, which is pretty good for us, I guess. Firebolt, try to take this out. Unfortunately, we don't have another red mana to be able to protect in case of a Spellstutter Sprite. Okay, then you have a Sprite to protect it. And at this point, I think I am going to mess up my mana just to play a creature. I think I'll go with Core Skyfisher. Now I can block. Makes their Ninja of the Deep Hours a lot worse unless they can also bounce this Core Skyfisher. The really good thing that Mono Blue Delver can do is that they can pick up Spellstutter Sprite with Ninja, and then they get a Ninja that they have in play, drawing cards, and a Spellstutter Sprite back in their hand to counter something. Alright, main deck Stormbound Geist. That's not very common as far as I know. Now I really wish that I had the Journey for this Stormbound Geist. We draw another Core Skyfisher. Well, if I had 4 mana this turn, I would consider picking up this Journey and replaying it, taking out the Stormbound Geist instead of the Delver. Fortunately, I do not. So I think I'm going to Galvanic Blast, targeting Spellstutter Sprite. I don't want them picking that back up again. I'm going to attack. I'm going to let them double block if they want to. They do not. And I'm going to pick up a land again. And pass the turn. Main deck Stormbound Geist is pretty good against us. We really want to draw one of our other 2 journeys now. Definitely going to block here. Our opponent just might be wanting to try to get a 3/3 flyer. Alright, there's the Ninja of the Deep Hours. Putting a Fairy Miscreant back in their hand and getting the draw card. Alright, and they're tapped out. A red source. Okay. What to do? The first thing I'm definitely doing is I'm going to bolt this Stormbound Geist. I don't want to have to deal with that. Then the question is, how much am I attacking with? Probably both. And then I'm probably just playing both of my spells. I realize this really, really messes up my mana. But it's not like I have a Muldrifter in hand. It's not like I even have a blue source anyway. I guess I do have a Firebolt that I would like to flash back at some point. So maybe I shouldn't play the Glinthawk. And I should just Kuldotha Rebirth? Yeah, that seems reasonable. However, Glinthawk puts them under a lot more pressure. It even means I could potentially attack with these. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go full nutso, basically, and sacrifice a bunch of stuff. Return this. Sacrifice this. This is also really good against counter magic, just getting all the spells out of my hand right now where they can't even do anything about them. Just put myself really far ahead on board and try to ride that to victory. If I draw any burn, that's good. If I draw any of these creatures, it's good. Any more Glinthawk or Core Skyfisher. Here, what am I going to block with? I really want this to die, but I don't want to trade off my creature in the air. I think I'm going to offer it anyway, though. I'll just put all of these in front of it. This way, even if they have 2 different bounce spells, for like on a Goblin plus on my Glinthawk, I still deal 2 damage to the Ninja. And they can take out 2 Goblins here, or a Glinthawk, whichever they prefer. Okay, they trade with 2 Goblins. And another Stormbound Geist. Well, that's basically the worst possible thing they could have done for us. Because now, if they block here, they have a 3/3 flyer and they completely shut down our attacks. And the whole point of doing what we did and messing up our mana base was so that we could be aggressive, and we can't be aggressive with a 3/3 flyer in our way. I had a feeling they would chump block there, which is why I chose not to just give them the Glinthawk by attacking with that. It would have gotten in another 2 damage, but I don't think it's quite worth it. Now if we draw a Journey or a Bolt or something like that, then it's a little bit better for us because we'll still have our Glinthawk around. Our opponent chose not to shuffle with Ponder. Plays a land. Has a Spire Golem. So we're just getting punished and punished again for being aggressive with these great blockers. Lightning Bolt. Alright, what to do? I can bolt the Geist and then attack with the Skyfishers just to try to do something. I think that's my best bet. And having to leave back Glinthawk isn't really the end of the world, because then I get to turn off the ninjutsu on the Fairy Miscreant. Alright, they're going to trade here. Now I don't need to worry about future Fairy Miscreants drawing a card. At least. But it does mean I can't get in for damage anymore. Galvanic Blast with only 2 artifacts. So should I trade Glinthawk plus Galvanic Blast for the Spire Golem? Most likely not. And the reason for that is they could just have a counterspell and then I'd get really punished. However, I can do this. Play these, do this post-combat. That way if they have a counterspell, it only trades 1 for 1 instead of me also throwing away a Glinthawk. Alright, they counter it. Another Spire Golem. They can actually start attacking here if they want to. They choose not to. Alright, Ancient Den. So I could flashback Firebolt after combat to kill a Spire Golem. The problem is that they can double block. I think I'm just going to leave the Firebolt in the yard for now. That's probably for the best. Fairy Miscreant. Now I'm glad that the other one was off the table. Journey to Nowhere. Alright, well that's a start. Let's spend this turn firebolting the Fairy Miscreant. Later we can try to journey the Spire Golem and do something else in the same turn. Our opponent's tapping stuff, acting like they're going to counter it. but they decide not to. Our opponent passes without playing a land yet again, so their hand is probably stocked full of counter magic. I'd much rather they counter this journey than the Mole Drifter, so I'm going to start off with that. And if they let it resolve, great. And if they don't, then that's one less thing that can counter my Mole Drifter. Okay, there's a counter spell. I could evoke Mole Drifter here, but I don't think that's a good idea. I want to get full value off of it. I think I have the time to wait. Vapor Stag on our Skyfisher, okay. Our opponent might try to counter it on the way back down, potentially. Our opponent gets to attack here, and we can't do the double block with 2 flyers trick because we don't have 2 flyers. And then they get to ninjutsu and replay a Spire Golem for just 1 mana, it looks like. Yep, there's a ninja. And that just 1 mana means that they're going to have 2 mana available to counterspell this core Skyfisher on the way back down. Okay, we'll start with Prism, and then Skyfisher. They'll probably let the Prism resolve and counter the Skyfisher if they do have a counterspell. Galvanic Blast is a good draw. Mana Leak, okay. Well, that's awkward. Alright. While they're tapped out, I'm going to go ahead and pop off one of these Spire Golems. Slow down the rate at which they're attacking us. Now if they bounce our Glinthawk, we'll probably have to chump with this Goblin to prevent them from drawing a card. Ponder's pretty good for them there. They can find Counterspell or a bounce spell for our Glinthawk, and we're in trouble. They chose to shuffle, though, so they must have seen a bunch of lands or something. Alright, definitely trading for this ninja if possible. And it is possible, okay. Our opponent might be ahead of us here. So now the question of our time. Do I play Mole Drifter for full value? I don't think I do, just because now I know they're playing Mana Leak. I'd rather try to do this and see if they counter it. Forgotten Cave. So I can cycle that. I have a little bit of time here, which is why I didn't want to go for the Mole Drifter right away. Alright. Now's my chance. I guess I could wait for one more land to try to play around Mana Leak, but most of my lands don't come into play untapped, so that would take me 2 turns, most likely. If they counter this, I'll probably lose. If they don't, I'll probably win. Alright, they didn't. And I drew an... Yeah, this is great. I drew a Kuldotha Rebirth. I get to draw a card even if they counter this. If they don't, I have Goblins for days. Spell Pierce? Spellstutter Sprite. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see what card we draw. Lightning Bolt. Alright. Do I want to take down the Spellstutter Sprite? Let's attack first, see if they just let me trade with the Goblin. They most likely will not. I think I'm going to hold this Bolt in my hand. Wait to see if our opponent tries to do something tricky first. For example, if they try to flash in a Ninja the Depowers here and replay the Spire Golem for 0 mana. And lo and behold, that's what they're going to do. And let's see if this works. Hopefully they don't have a counterspell. Alright, they don't. They're still going to get to replay their Spire Golem for 0, though. Alright, our opponent is empty-handed, and we're resolving Mole Drifter this turn. Things are looking up. There's the Mole Drifter. And we have lands for days. This bounce land doesn't matter because we don't have any cycle lands on the field to pick up. So we'll just play a gain land and pass. We don't have any attacks, unfortunately. But we have ways to gain some life, and we can just sit around until we draw removal for the Spire Golem. Currently have a Delver of Secrets under this journey, so if we draw a Skyfisher, we can pick up the journey and replay it, getting rid of the Golem. Prophetic Prism. Try to resolve that. Glinthawk. Okay, well if they didn't counter Prophetic Prism, they probably won't try to counter this. Counterspell? Vapor Snag. Targeting their own spell stutter sprite. So they can replay it. So that's the downside of playing Vapor Snag over Snap. Snap works out really well with spell stutter sprite because it gives you the 2 mana you need to recast it and it doesn't cost you life. But Vapor Snag is better for your opponent's creatures, so... Alright, pass the turn. Our opponent has no cards in hand, drawing to 1. Alright, another Prism, try to resolve this again. We could wait till we have multiple spells in hand, but they could potentially draw multiple counter spells in that time, so it's not necessarily a good idea to wait. Another Muldrifter. And a Mana Leak. Wow. Supremely punished. So yeah, there's definitely a reason that I could have waited there. The problem is, the longer I wait, the more likely it is they just draw like Counterspell or Deprive. And that's bad for me too. Really interesting what I should have done there. If that Muldrifter had resolved, we would have been doing really well. As it is, our opponent just passed a Ponder, didn't shuffle, so they like their top 3 cards, which means they have good stuff to do for days, apparently. Let's hope that first thing wasn't exactly Counterspell. Depends on what order they put them in. Alright, here I'm going to do the Journey trick. Give them a lowly Delver of Secrets, and get rid of this Spire Golem and try to start attacking. If our opponent didn't shuffle with the Ponder and didn't draw exactly Counterspell first, I'm not really sure what they're doing. They would have Vapor Snagged in response to the Journey trigger just now. So they don't have a bounce spell either. I guess they could have put like a Mana Leak or something on top, but that's really bad when I have so much mana. I'm not sure why they wouldn't shuffle and then not be able to interact at all with what we just did. Alright, let's see if they set up the top of their library to flip this Delver, even though they didn't know the Delver was coming back. Una's Grace. Okay, I guess that makes a little bit of sense. Since we didn't have any pressure at the moment, they thought they could get away with taking some time to Una's Grace, discard a land, Una's Grace again. Yep, apparently that's exactly what it was. So they just chewed through 2 cards, got whatever the 3rd card was they saw with Ponder, and ended up with an Una's Grace in their library, in their graveyard as well. They decide to reveal Ninja of the Deep Hours. I guess that was an accident. And they concede, because we have lethal in the air. Alright, excellent. Get to sideboard. Alright, you guys should know this as well as I do by now. 3 Pyroblast, 2 Electrickery, a Journey, and a Negate. We're taking out Core Sanctifiers, Kuldotha Rebirth, 2 Lone Missionary, 2 Ichor Wellspring. And submitting. Alright, on the draw, only have 1 land. We have a Pyroblast, which is great. We have a Galvanic Blast, which is fine. A Prism, which is good. I think I'm going to keep this hand. I've been presented with a lot of 1-land hands that are very borderline, but I generally err on the side of not mulliganing. Okay. I think I'm just going to take that out right now. I don't see a very good reason to let it stick around. Our opponent could have another Fairy Miscreant. They could have Spellstutter Sprite, so we couldn't remove it later, so I just want to get rid of it. And then I get to wait around with this Pyroblast up and this Lightning Bolt I just drew, and hopefully counter a Stormbound Geist. Although I do have a Journey to Nowhere in hand when I find white mana for the Stormbound Geist as well. Our opponent did not shuffle with Ponder. Passes a turn. Alright, we have Prophetic Prism. I think I'm okay with trying to go ahead and do this now. We give our opponent an avenue to resolve Stormbound Geist, but like I said, we have the Journey. And I want to try to hit my land drop. Okay, I do. Pick up the one that can come into play untapped. Pass the turn. Alright, this is a sign that our opponent has Ninja the Deep Hours. They're running out of Spellstutter Sprite for no value. And they have Spellstutter Sprite to protect it. So now I get to Lightning Bolt the Ninja of the Deep Hours and then Pyroblast whatever they do in response. Most likely play a Spellstutter Sprite. Pyroblast, either mode of it will work there. I could also let it resolve and then destroy it while the trigger's on the stack. Now I get to resolve another Prophetic Prism. And I have creatures. I don't have any white mana, but I do have prisms, so I do have white mana. See what our opponent can do. Hardcast Ninja. Okay. Well, that matches up well with the Firebolt we just drew. Then I get to play a Glinthawk. Play a Prism. Tranquil Cove. I could play another Glinthawk there. But yeah, I should have played another Glinthawk there. That was completely my mistake. I was thinking too much of being able to play a tap land. My initial plan was to play both these Glinthawks, but instinct took over and I played the tap land without thinking. Hopefully it won't hurt us too badly to be a turn behind with the Hawk. Our opponent goes bottom with that preordain just now. Spire Golem. And Delver. Okay. So I think I'm going to take this opportunity to resolve Muldrifter. Obviously it's important to journey that Spire Golem off the table at some point since it's shutting down our attacks. But I really want to resolve this Muldrifter really badly. And luckily enough, we draw Galvanic Blast, have Metalcraft, and we can get rid of this anyway. Excellent. Well, I tried to click that, but I apparently hit OK first, so I messed up by not attacking. I'm not going to call that one a mistake, that was just a misclick. Need to be more careful to make sure I'm attacking before I hit OK. Narcolepsy, my Glinthawk, that's fine with me. And Narcolepsy, my Muldrifter. That's also fine with me. For some reason, my F2 key just stopped working. I think I was hitting F1. Alright. Always yield to these abilities. Hopefully I'll find a Core Skyfisher soon so I can pick up my creatures and replay them. I guess this is a reason to not always sideboard out all my Core Sanctifiers, is because of this and also Cursor Chains that our other opponent had. Lead with a Prism. Muldrifter. Okay, I don't have an untapped land, so I can't hardcast that right now. I think I want to resolve a Journey this turn, and also a Glinthawk. I'm also going to end up cycling this cave. I probably should have done that sooner than later if I was going to do it anyway. Alright. Pick up a Prism. Then I can cycle away the Secluded Step on their end step. Our opponent ponders, has one card in hand besides this. They chose to shuffle. And we win the match. Excellent. So we got to go 5-0 with Kuldotha Jeskai. For the first time in Pennywise Pauper, that wasn't really that fair of a sample size since we played the same deck 3 whole times. And I'm pretty sure Kuldotha Jeskai is heavily favored just to the way our creatures match up against their creatures. Although the one that had main deck Stormbound Geist was obviously very good against us. Although it seems like too much of a liability against other decks, but maybe it's a good idea. So we only got to see ourselves in action against basically control decks. Mono Blue Delver is sort of a tempo aggro deck, but it can sometimes play like a control deck as well, depending. That Stormbound Geist version felt a lot more like a control deck. And also Acid Trip is basically a control deck, so is Mono Black Control. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see really against any super aggressive matchups, but we do have a lot of game against them. Having the cheap 2-3 blocker, having Lone Missionaries main deck, and ways to gain life in that is pretty cool. We also have lots of cheap removal and interactions, so. Overall, I enjoy the deck a lot. I think the mana is a little bit weird. There might be room for another basic or something there, maybe minus a bounce land or one of the cyclers or something. I'm not sure exactly. There's a lot of different directions you can go with the mana base. I just know that I don't exactly like having only 8 untapped lands. So let's talk about the series. I know I mentioned viewer submissions before, but now I have a date for that. In 2 weeks, I'm going to start taking viewer submitted decks, viewer submitted challenges. This could be anything from a single card to something as broad as try to build a Pauper Rebels deck. And I'm also going to be creating and debuting some brews of my own. So every time a new set comes out, such as Shadows over Innistrad, which is dropping soon, we're going to take all the sweet new commons, not all of them, but all of the really good new commons, and we're going to try to build new decks around them or put them into existing decks and see how they do. So we'll have 3 more weeks of quote-unquote normal, known decks in the format, and then after that, the brewing fun will start. Remember guys, if you like this series, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see all the great stuff that we put out. If you want to contact me, I'm on Twitter at JakeStylesMTG. Styles is Stiles. And I also try to read all the comments on the YouTube videos and on the article itself on the site. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.